You're listening to the Life Coaching Secrets Podcast, episode 101. Did you know that life coaches are needed now more than ever? I'm Frank Macri, founder of Thriving Coach Academy. I've trained over 1,000 coaches and helped them launch their own successful coaching businesses. If you want to make an incredible income and impact as a coach and have a lot of fun doing it, I'll show you exactly how to get it done. This is Life Coaching Secrets. Hey coaches, welcome back to the show. In this episode, I'm going to talk about self-care for entrepreneurs. And this is a topic I haven't yet covered yet. It's very important that coaches who are looking to start their own businesses have an understanding of ways to incorporate self-care into their process of growing their business. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about what are the signs that you'd benefit from more self-care? What does self-care even mean? Because that term is used so much lately. So what does it actually mean to have self-care? And I'll go over some of the biggest myths that people have about self-care and what's actually true. Now, I'm coming back to you and presenting this podcast after just finishing a weekend trip to South Carolina. I went to Charleston and I had such a blast. Beautiful, historic, charming southern city, and it just was a ton of fun. And while I was out there, I decided one morning to book a facial for the first time. I'd never had a facial before, and I loved it. And I am now incorporating facials as part of my monthly self-care practice. And it inspired me to think about self-care overall. And I thought it's time to talk about this on an episode. I also want to give a big shout out to one of our brand new coaches. She just enrolled this week. Her name is Kristen. And it's really cool because she was saying how she started out listening to this podcast and has been working in a job that she's successful in, but not quite fulfilled in it. It's quite stressful for her. And this podcast has given her a lot of energy and enthusiasm and hope for a new career in coaching. And she just enrolled in the academy today. So big shout out to Kristen. I know a lot of you can relate to her story and her experience of, being in a job that you're wanting to change, or you're wanting to, to drift into something that's more fulfilling. And if so, then please do book a call with our team and we would love to see how we can support you. All right, so let's talk about self-care. What does self-care mean? So self-care means taking intentional time to do things that rejuvenate you, that nourish you, things that support you physically, emotionally, and mentally. Now, self-care is something that you do that is unrelated to your business. Now, when you get started in entrepreneurship, if you're anything like me, I felt guilty when it came to doing anything outside my business because I had so much passion for coaching and I just really wanted to put all my energy and time into my business. And I found that this started to exhaust me. And after I got over the guilt, I was able to start prioritizing my self-care and not feeling bad about it because I thought, I shouldn't be taking this time for myself because I really should just be focusing on my business. And I had that mentality where I always need to be working on my business and I neglected my self-care for a period of time. But then I started to incorporate self-care into my life and I found that the more time that I prioritize my self-care, the more my business actually grows. And this has been a phenomenon I've noticed happen for years now. And as the years have gone by, I have devoted less and less time to my business, yet I always end up generating more revenue in my business at the same time. So how can that possibly be? I really do think one of the main reasons for that is because I give myself ample self-care. And because I have that ample self-care, I am so rejuvenated. So that way, when I do put time into my business, that time is very focused and it's very intentional. So I get so much more out of the less time that I put into my business. Is that making sense? So for you, right, you might feel like the more time you put into your business, the more it's going to grow. What if it's possible that when you can prioritize your self-care and fully nourish and rejuvenate yourself, then you can actually devote less time to your business and get better results. So that's what I want to start opening you up to considering in this episode, because sometimes when you enroll in the academy and you get started, as a coach, you think, okay, I need to devote 100% of my energy and focus to my business. And this is actually not true, and it could work against you, all right? So self-care for entrepreneurship is absolutely key. Now, there are some signs that you might be experiencing as an entrepreneur that could indicate that it could be an opportunity for you to prioritize some self-care. So I want to go over what some of those signs are. One of those is feeling exhausted. So if you're feeling physically or emotionally exhausted, then that's a sign that you'd benefit from self-care. Another sign is if you have a lot of difficulty concentrating or making decisions, even if it's on very simple tasks. Another sign is if you find that you've been less productive, your productivity is going down, it's harder for you to get things done. That's a sign you need some more self-care. Another sign is if you find yourself becoming more irritable, more impatient, and maybe even your body starts to send you signals. I really believe that our body gives us a lot of clues as to what we need. And when our body starts to give us those signals, we've got to tune in. So if you notice that, you're suddenly having headaches or stomach problems, or it's hard for you to sleep at night, if you notice that your body's starting to give you some signs, it could be an opportunity for you to prioritize your self-care. All right, so if you've got some of those signs, then I really want you to tune in. And also, if you eventually hit a point where you notice you're having some of those signs, then it's just a great reminder for you to prioritize your self-care, so that way you don't experience things like burnout, okay? Because we don't want that to happen. And another reason why I want to talk about this right now is a lot of the coaches inside the academy are having this challenge where they are filling up their practice. Like, I feel like it's becoming it's a great problem to have, right? But it's becoming something that's been a theme lately, where several students are saying, my practice is filling up and I don't know how I could fit more coaches into my schedule. Or, I'm just feeling like I am maybe needing to start to delegate or, hand off some responsibilities. So I'm going to talk about self-care in this episode. And I'm also going to make another episode on delegation, because as your business grows, it's important that you this is a form of self-care when you delegate and when you start to hand off certain responsibilities. Okay, so you know what the signs are. Self-care is, again, about rejuvenating yourself, your physical, your mental, and your emotional self. And there's an idea that you need to be grinding constantly to grow your business. You constantly need to be working around the clock. Remember, that is unnecessary. Okay, so now that we know some of the signs, we know what self-care is, I want to talk about some of the myths that people have when it comes to self-care. And I shared one at the beginning of this episode, and one of them was the myth that self-care is something that, is something that's going to take away from your success, okay? So that's the myth number one, is that self-care is taking away from your success and taking away from your goals. What I've actually found is that it contributes to your goals when you do self-care appropriately. And I'll talk about how some people misuse self-care and manipulate the term a little bit later in this episode. So when I love to travel, this is one of the ways that I love to incorporate self-care into my life. I like going on weekend trips. I love going on longer vacations outside of the country. Last year, I went to Italy. I went to Peru, which was incredible. The year before that, I did a lot of traveling around within the United States. I did Hawaii. I did Utah. I did Florida. There was a lot of traveling happening within the U.S. This year, I'm excited. I'm going to be going back to Europe. I've also got some trips within the U.S. plan. And it's just something that always brings me joy. And I find that whenever I travel, it's almost like right when I get on the plane, my brain goes into another state. And as I'm traveling, I'm making new connections in my brain. I'm having new ideas generate because I'm in a new environment. And when I come back from a vacation, when I return from travel, I have so many fresh ideas to bring to my business. I have such a fresh perspective and I have a renewed energy. So it's really incredible because it's time away from my business, but it's actually working for the benefit of my business because of the benefits that I get from travel. Do you see how this works? So the myth that self-care is going to take time away from your goals or lower the chance of your success, this is absolutely not true. Myth number 2 is the idea that self-care is selfish. All right. So you might feel like when you prioritize yourself that you're actually being selfish and you're better off putting your focus on your family. Now, this is a very common one. A lot of people do feel like they're being selfish to just focus on themselves, and some people feel very guilty around it. And there's a lot of reasons why this might be. One of them could be different societal expectations we have. There might be expectations that some people put their work or family above their own needs. And this could cause you to feel very guilty or selfish when you do prioritize self-care. You also might have a fear of judgment. So you might worry how people might perceive you for taking time for yourself. You might think people may think that you're being lazy or unproductive. So you can feel even more guilty when you do prioritize time for yourself. So it's really important to recognize that self-care is not selfish and it is certainly not lazy. Self-care is essential for maintaining good physical, emotional, and mental health. Okay, so it's important to prioritize yourself because it's going to help you be more productive and creative and overall in a positive well-being. Now, here's how this all comes full circle. Especially if you're someone that you have the guilt because you're like, well, what about my kids if I'm taking time away from my family? Is that selfish? Am I putting them in a worse place? I want you to really think about this. So when you are filling your cup, so to speak, and you continue to rejuvenate yourself, then you have more to overflow to give back to others. So the more that you can recharge and re-energize, rejuvenate yourself, the more you have to overflow and benefit others, okay? You can't give what you don't have. So if you're trying to give from an empty cup, you are doing a disservice to both you and the people you most care about, okay? So when the more that you benefit yourself and take care of yourself and give you what you need to thrive, then you're actually showing up with even more to give to the people you care about. So if you really do care about others, then the best way that you can provide the most incredible care to them is by taking care of yourself, okay? The example I always like to give with this is, you know how when you're flying on an airplane and they tell you during the, when you're taking off, they say, if the oxygen masks falls down, remember to put on your own mask before you start helping put on other people's masks, because we are in a way wired to just want to help others. But we need to be reminded that we need to take care of ourselves first, right? In order to be effectively taking care of others. So you got to put your oxygen mask on first before you can help others put on theirs. All right. So self-care is not selfish. It is essential. And it is something that's going to benefit the people that you most care about. Sometimes when students enroll in the academy, they say that, just the investment in coach training is sometimes it's sometimes the first investment they're making in themselves. It's sometimes the first time they feel like they're really prioritizing themselves and not just, focusing only on their family's needs. So it's really beautiful just to hear people come to that realization and know that, when you invest in yourself, when you invest in your self-care and your well-being, that's going to benefit those around you. All right, let's go to another myth. Another myth around self-care is that it requires a lot of time and a lot of money. Not true. There are many different simple activities that you can do that don't have to be expensive. They don't have to be time consuming, and they're still able to make you feel incredible. So I want to share with you some examples. And when I share these, I want you to start thinking about which of these speaks to you. Which ones can you start incorporating or trying out to see how it impacts you positively? So there are a number of different free or very inexpensive ways for you to incorporate self-care. One example could be going for a walk or going on a hike in nature. Sometimes I love going for a walk, even if it's 20 minutes or more, walking around in nature. can be incredibly rejuvenating. Another is taking a relaxing bath, right? When's the last time that you did that? Just took a really relaxing bath, put on some relaxing music, light some candles, and just have a nice little spa day for yourself in the comfort of your own home. Another form of self-care could be practicing yoga or meditation. So I go to yoga once a week, and I love that. I love stretching. I love, increasing my flexibility. So yoga could be a form of self-care or meditation. A lot of our students sometimes say they start their morning with, a little meditation, some deep breathing. Can even be for just 5 or 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be for a long period of time. Another form of self-care is journaling or writing. So having a space for you to put your thoughts onto paper or just write out your ideas, write out what you're thinking can be really a beautiful form of self-care. Another is getting good sleep. There is so much benefit you can get from getting a good night's sleep or even just taking a nap, right? That might really benefit you in having more energy. Next is playing a game or doing some kind of a puzzle. So the students in the academy, I love to talk about with our community all the ways that I incorporate self-care because I want to model it for our students. I don't want our students to think like they always have to be 100% focused on their business. And I want them to see that, there's a life that I have outside of just coaching. So I geek out a lot about board games. It's one of my hobbies. Every week I have a few friends come over and we get sucked into a really deep strategy game that usually takes upward from 2 to 5 hours, and we love it. So board gaming is a big hobby of mine. And, for you, it might be some kind of a game or puzzle that could, give you some form of self-care. And now, one form of self-care could be taking a break from technology and from social media. Okay, perhaps you devote some time in your day where you're not going on your phone. You're not connecting with any form of social media or technology at all. Cooking is a really beautiful form of self-care. Cooking, baking, making your favorite meal or snack, being able to provide nourishment for yourself. And then finally, spending some time with loved ones or even pets. Okay, this is another great and free way that you can enjoy forms of self-care. So self-care does not require a lot of time, doesn't need to require a lot of money. There's an idea that people might have that self-care is a very expensive activity. Now, with that in mind, there are more luxurious ways that you can provide self-care to yourself. And I do want to share some of those as well in case they interest you. So one could be booking a massage or a spa treatment. Now, I get a 90-minute Thai massage, usually every 3 weeks, and it is life-changing. Ever since I've been to Thailand years ago, I tried out getting a Thai massage, and it's so different from other forms of massages. And I love and look forward to when I could just lay out and have a 90-minute massage. It's incredible. Another form of self-care could be going on a vacation or having a weekend getaway. So as I've shared, this is one that I really love. You get to come back with fresh perspective and fresh energy to your business. Another form of self-care is hiring a personal trainer. Or even hiring some kind of a coach, right? So you might consider hiring, whether it be a wellness coach or some kind of health coach. This could be a form of self-care. So I do have a personal trainer. I've worked with so many trainers over the years. I meet with my trainer a couple times a week, and my trainer guides me through various weightlifting exercises. Another form of self-care could be joining a gym or some kind of fitness club, okay? Another could be attending retreats or workshops. So I'm a big personal development junkie. I just can't get enough of it. And, it's rare that I would go within a year not attending some kind of personal development retreat or workshop. One of the exciting new features that we're offering inside Thriving Coach Academy is we are now, and it's my first time, I think, announcing this on the podcast, but we are having an in-person retreat for our coaches. All of our coaches and all of our graduates will have access to an in-person 2-day retreat, and we'll be having that later this year in San Diego. And we're so excited. Hopefully it becomes an annual thing. We have so much fun in our virtual classroom because our whole program is virtual, and there's a lot of fun and a lot of community built in that. And we also want to give our coaches the opportunity to just meet in person and have a weekend of fun, being able able to hug each other, be in the presence of the amazing coaches they've met in the program. And I'm so excited to be leading that retreat later in the year. So retreats, workshops are another form of self-care. Investing in higher quality skincare or beauty care products, can also be another form of self-care, being able to invest in that. Hiring a personal chef or nutritionist, right? That could be a form of self-care as well. Taking some kind of class where you are learning a new hobby or a new skill is a great form of self-care. So I started to take piano lessons once a week. I have a teacher that I meet with virtually. She's incredible, and I've been working with her a couple of years now. And every Monday, I have an hour where I am practicing the piano with her, in addition to some practice I do on my own throughout the week. And it's been so much fun. I'm looking to also enroll in an introduction course to improv comedy. I know it's so random. It's very out of my comfort zone, but my father does comedy, and he does stand-up comedy. And I know that there's a whole art to it. And I noticed that there's some courses around it. And I thought, oh, this could be a really fun new thing to learn and try out and really push me out of my comfort zone. So taking some kind of class or workshop could be a form of self-care for you. Investing in therapy or counseling. Like I said before, maybe it's working with some kind of a coach, being able to have a professional to help navigate you through challenges that you're going through in your life is absolutely a form of self-care if it's something that'll benefit you. And then finally, investing in luxury items, like maybe for you, designer clothing or jewelry could be a form of self-care. Now, as I go through this list, some of these things may resonate for you, some of them may not, just based off of what your values are. So hopefully as you listened, some of the things stood out to you and you thought, oh, maybe I could try that, or that sounds kind of different or fun or exciting for me. And it's also worth trying something that you've never done before, just to see how the experience is. Like I am not really big into fashion, and the students in the academy know I have the same uniform, so to speak, that I wear for most of our calls. It's usually a white polo. I just it's very clean. It's very simple. I have so many white polos in my closet. And I was invited to a family member's wedding last year. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go full out and get a brand new custom suit, and I'm just going to have that experience. So I went to Nordstrom, and I met with one of their workers there, and he completely picked out my entire suit from head to toe. And I think it came to be well over $1,000 for the suit. And I had never invested really that much in one outfit before, but it was such a great experience. And it just felt really good to make an investment in my image and to really feel good about myself and the outfit that I was wearing for that wedding. So whether you want to invest in something that's more luxurious or something that's inexpensive or free, it's just about you incorporating self-care into your life. Now, another myth that people have around self-care is that it's only for people who have some kind of major mental illness or issue. And this is not true. Self-care is beneficial for everybody, regardless of your mental health status. Okay, self-care is what promotes overall well-being, and it prevents burnout, and it actually prevents all the negative effects of stress. Okay, so it doesn't mean if you're doing or incorporating self-care that there's something major that's wrong with you. And then one other interesting myth that, frankly, I did used to believe is that self-care is only for women. This is just a stereotype that is out there in the world. And, as a man, I thought, oh, self-care is something that really women participate in. And the truth is everyone can benefit from self-care regardless of your gender. Now, we do have many male coaches in the academy. And, there's, a lot of people out there that might have this idea around self-care. So I just want you to know, regardless of how you identify, self-care is something for everyone. Okay, so it is essential that you have self-care incorporated into your life if you want to really thrive as a coach and as an entrepreneur. So I want to end the episode with one final thing, and that is how people might misuse the term self-care. So self-care is not a term that is used to justify any kind of destructive or damaging behavior. And it's also not doing things that are really causing you to avoid what your what goals you have in your life. So I'll give you some examples. Some people might heavily use drugs and alcohol as a form of self-care. And they might say, okay, well, it's helping me relax. It's helping me cope with stress. But drugs and alcohol can lead to many negative consequences. It could lead to addiction. It could lead to, damage done to your body. So any kind of self-destructive behavior, this is not what self-care is really supposed to be. Now, I made the intentional decision a couple years ago to completely stop drinking alcohol. And there were many reasons for that. I didn't like the way I felt after I drank alcohol. And I didn't really see that it had a purpose in my life. So I did some self-coaching on it, and I was looking at what was my resistance to stopping alcohol. And some of it was around just, it helps me let loose and have more fun. And then I just looked at, well, how can I still let loose and have fun without alcohol? Like, alcohol is not a requirement that allows me to be myself. I can be myself without having a drug to do that for me. So I completely cut it out, and I love it. I love that I made that decision because I feel like I'm gaining more of my life back because I'm more present. I'm not altering my consciousness in order to just exist in the world. I could just stay focused and stay present and not have to deal with the terrible hangovers as well, because I would get hangovers all the time, and even from the slightest bit of alcohol. So I just made the choice to stop drinking altogether and not doing any drugs. All right. So self-care is not, it's not just a term that you use to cover up really destructive and damaging behavior. Now, I also mentioned that self-care is not participating in activities that just cause you to avoid what needs to be done and the goals that you have. All right. So some people will be like, oh, it's self-care. Like spending all day shopping is self-care, and just staying in bed all day, it's just my self-care, but you're not actually achieving your goals. So self-care is not to be used as a form of avoidance, right? When it's used appropriately, what it does is it rejuvenates you so that way you can return to your goals that you have in your life with more focus and with more productivity. So as I've mentioned, when I go out and travel, I come back and I'm ready to get to work. Like, I am more productive when I return from my vacations. And that's because I'm not misusing self-care. I'm not neglecting or avoiding my business or my goals. I'm using self-care to actually benefit them. So that is what I got on self-care. I want you to think about, what would it look like for you to treat yourself? What would it look like for you to indulge in something that puts you first? I know that you might have some things come up for you around this. You might have some resistance, but remember, self-care is essential for your success. Self-care benefits all the people that you care about, right? And I believe that you deserve the best support and the best self-care that you can possibly give yourself. All right. So hopefully this episode has inspired that. I'm going to leave this episode with a short clip from one of our coaches inside the academy to share their story about how they achieved their success and give you some tips as well as you look to grow as a coach. All right. Thanks for tuning into this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.
I am Shelly Grossman, and I am a fairly new coach. But part of my story is that I was disabled from a car accident. So I am coming off of disability, and I got a degree in social work. And I thought social work was that vehicle for changing my life. And I realized I don't want to deal with problems. I want people to come to me and be, focused on solutions. So I rerouted, and I went and I decided I want to go to school for coaching. I felt like I needed more structure for my business, and more empowerment for myself, actually, because I needed to be built up a little bit. And I got exactly what I needed out of the program. I really enjoyed that it was very specific about, you do this and you can get this result. So very detail oriented. It gave me the tools that I needed to feel confident, to be able to reach out to the people around me. I just enrolled my first paying client for $1,500, and I am very excited to work with him. And he said, so how do I pay you? I'd like to pay it all in full. And he just gave it to me. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is real. This is really happening. And when that happened, I actually saw my $100,000 career. And when I saw my $100,000, I'm writing a book. So I saw my book being completed, and I saw everything happening. So that one thing that happened led to the whole vision happening. So it was amazing. I have a lot of imposter syndrome. And I think that's very, very natural and normal for new coaches. And being in the program helped me be in a space with other people who have the same thing. And when we were able to sit in that space together, we were able to, shed that imposter syndrome and support one another. If you're on the fence about this program, I would tell you to push yourself over the edge and take this program. It will change your coaching. It will change how you feel about yourself and about coaching. And it will give you the confidence you need to be the coach you dream about being.
Hey, would you like access to powerful coaching tools you can use on yourself and clients right away? For being a listener of the podcast, I'm giving you a VIP guest pass to get a sneak peek into my coach training program. Inside, you'll learn our coaches' secret tool they use to transform their clients' lives. And you'll also get a training on how to launch a coaching business. Just head over to www.thrivingcoachacademy.com/VIP to get started. I'll see you on the inside.